Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series. To be precise, we have reached episode number 198. That is the 198th trolley stop here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series here at PR from the Heart. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager of PR from the Heart and the host of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, joined as always, my little faithful furry friend and companion. He is one of my little lights. Put a pin in that phrase here momentarily, but little Forrest joins me each and every week, and he reminds me, he says, John, you got to remember, I'm your co-host. So, we're a tandem. We're a dynamic duo here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. If you are new to the program, if you are new to our neighborhood, we encourage you, one of the many ways you can pledge your support for us here at PR from the Heart and the Children's Book Spotlight Series is to subscribe to our official YouTube channel and to be able to share this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 198 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. And to like this interview, like this episode as well in the process. And today we come prepared. It's always good to be able to come prepared. I think that was the Boy Scout model, if I'm not mistaken, growing up. Just around the Christmas holiday, I had the chance to attend a lovely Christmas concert at the Rady Shell in downtown San Diego. And I was given one of these. And I hung on to it for a reason. Now, yes, this is a battery-operated candle. And it's interesting because sometimes when you receive things, you're wondering, well, why am I meant to receive this? And why in the heck am I meant to hang on to this? And it goes back to a beautiful song. Actually, one of my favorite, Christmas is one of my favorite seasons. For many of you who have tuned into the program for a long period of time, you remember that, you recognize that. Back in the late 1980s, there was a PBS Christmas special, a holiday concert from the beloved folk group Peter, Paul, and Mary. And they have such a touching song called Light One Candle. And the main stanza in the song goes, don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. It's available on YouTube. It's absolutely fascinating. I actually recorded it on VHS and then I burned it onto DVD, so I actually still watch it each and every year. But the reason why we're communicating about these messages, these themes, these anthems today is the world is going through a lot of hurt still. I know just recently in San Diego, we had some bad storms, some flooding. And on the East Coast, there's been, especially back in our original hometown of Buffalo, New York, there was a lot of snow. But not even necessarily just through Mother Nature, in many respects, during times of our life, we can go through emotional storms. Sometimes they can be little drizzles, and sometimes they can seem like torrential downpours with thunder and with lightning. And it's really important when we have those emotions, when we have those feelings, to be able to remember who we are, to remember that there's not even just light in the world, but that we are our own light as well, too. And of course, you know how it is here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, right? There is a children's book that is available that is helping to put everything into its proper perspective and help us to be able to discuss this a little bit more in depth. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, of course, our fellow shining stars, in addition to our little lights that are out there. We encourage you to be able to head on over to Amazon.com and purchase your copy of Just One Little Light. It is now available. One of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Kat Ye is to be able to leave a 5-star review for Just One Little Light. That's one of the many ways, again, you can pledge your support to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. We always like to say here on the program, we encourage you as well to head on over to your favorite local library or your favorite local children's or independent bookstore, and to make that suggestion that they stock Just One Little Light in the eventful chance that they don't happen to have it in stock as well, too. We've also included Kat's official website below in the description below as well. The trolley travels across the country, and yes, it still is the winter season, even though it's, sun shining here in San Diego. So the trolley's bundling up. We're going all the way across the country from San Diego to the city of brotherly love. That is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, joining us for her first trolley stop here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. Joining little Forrest and I is award-winning children's author Kat Yeh. Kat, appreciate the time here joining little Forrest and I, and thank you for spending some time with us here in our neighborhood today.
Oh, hi, John. Thank you so much for having me.
You have to love how we come prepared. We've got Peter, Paul, and Mary. We've got battery-operated candles.
We really are prepared. I appreciate it.
We always like to be able to have some things that can really help the episodes to pop out a little bit more in the process. Yeah. We always love to be able to start off our conversations. We call our trolley stops. As you can tell, we're huge Mr. Rogers buffs here at the Children's Spotlight series.
As I am.
We all have an origin story. And there is obviously the origin story of Just One Little Light, but there is your own origin story. First things first. You're one of the shining stars in the KidLit community, and you share your work in such a very powerful, poignant way. Whenever someone decides to be able to become a children's author, there's normally some kind of impetus, some sort of inspiration for it. Sometimes, kids know very early and they're carrying around those little old school black composition notebooks. Oftentimes there's some kind of experience or experiences that happens along the way from the universe, the little gentle nudges that say, hey, you should be a children's author. For those who are learning about your work, not even just One Little Light for the first time, but for those who are learning about your work overall in its totality, could you share with us where it all began for you?
Absolutely. John, I think I am one of those who knew pretty early on, at least I knew I wanted to be a writer and an artist from a very, very young age. And I knew I wanted to express myself. And I think it was somewhere maybe when I was 8 or 9, my mom bought, do we have it here? Oh my gosh. I had this little green notebook she bought for me, little teeny puffy green. It was actually just a calendar with a day for each page, a page for each day. And I had this idea that I was going to write a poem every single day for the rest of my life. And this was just this calling that I had. And each day I wrote a little poem, and I went on for a lot of the year. And I don't remember if I ever finished that particular notebook. I might have dwindled off, but I always wrote. I didn't know that I would actually, the idea of becoming a published author was scary for me. And it seemed like this faraway magical thing. I couldn't imagine I could ever actually be published. So I did a lot of other things. I worked in sports marketing. I was a copywriter. I was always writing, but I was always also writing for myself late at night or at the off hours. And I think that I finally, after I had kids of my own, honestly, and they got a little older, I finally became brave enough to take some of my writing and actually decide to put it out there in the world and see if I could become a published author. So it took me a little while to do it, but I always wanted to. At least I always wanted to write. I think believing that anything I wrote could be good enough to be published took a little bit longer. And then the final cherry was being brave enough to take it out there.
And when you obviously know, and it's kind of like you're discovering treasure for the first time, it's like, oh, look, I have these gifts. We can be self-conscious. We can be our critics. And there is the part of us that says, no, not you, someone else, why you kind of thing. So as we are, we are divine beings, but we're also human beings. We move through the challenges, the difficulties, the obstacles, the problems, the stressors, the troubles, the worries. When you knew that you needed to step into the KidLit arena with all of your armor on, right? Your heartfelt armor, if you want to call it that, and begin to be able to do this work. And then with regards to Just One Little Light, which we're going to be talking about as well, too, could you share some of the specific challenges and difficulties that you encountered along the way? Because I can only imagine that, when you, and this is to not be presumptuous in any way, shape, or form, that when you're talking about moving through the darkness,
Mhm.
that there's, and we all move that in our own ways, shapes, and forms, but
Yeah.
it was, that you experience that in some way, shape, or form. But whatever it is you feel comfortable in sharing, what are some of the specific challenges and difficulties that you move through? And what were some of the things that helped you to get through to the other side of those challenges and difficulties?
Challenges in general, or challenges that have to do specifically with trying to get published?
Both, actually, if you want
Oh,
to.
okay.
Both.
Yeah, sure. um, I think I think challenges are one of the. I mean, okay, so challenges obviously are hard. They're difficult, but as you and I were talking about earlier, they're so important in hindsight. When you look at them, they are the moments that you find growth. I was talking to my son about this. We were talking about physics and how oftentimes you look at what will send something up. There's often a dip before you can rise, and the dip is the challenge. And I've come to see the challenges in my life as something I started calling roughly wrapped gifts, right? When you first happen upon them, they they do not look like something that have any value, and in fact they look, usually they're terrible, and you don't think they're for you. But upon sitting with them for a while and unwrapping whatever it is, you discover that most challenges can be gifts, depending on how you handle them, what you bring to them, the self-reflection, the things like that. In terms of, for me, I mean, a big challenge I think a lot of writers can relate to is, would anybody even want to hear what I have to say? Do I have anything of value to offer? And you could love to do something, and I always love to write, and to write poems and to paint and to draw pictures, but there was always the challenge of, maybe I'm just the only one who thinks this means anything. And the things I would write held so much meaning for me, and oftentimes I don't think there's any book I've ever written that I haven't cried during the writing of. I'm very emotional when I write, and I'm often struggling with things and trying to figure things out. And so for me, the stories I'm writing, the books I'm trying to put out there, have deep, deep importance for me. And of course, that comes along with the fear of, will this ever mean anything to anyone else?
Mm.
And I think for me, a big part of getting over that was knowing that it's enough that it's important to me, and it's enough that I'm working through this and finding ways to express things, and um, answering my own questions about the world. And that's enough, because it has value to me. And all we can do is be our unapologetically authentic selves,
True.
express ourselves, put it out there. And then after that, we don't have control of it. Something that we say in publishing all the time is, once you put a book out, it's not yours anymore. It belongs to whoever picks it up. And some people will love it. Some people won't love it. Some people, it will change something for them. But you never know. And we can't control that. The wonderful part about that is the inverse is also true. Their response can't control us. The way anybody feels about it doesn't make a difference to us. We still wrote the book that we wanted to write. And so for me, I think that really was such a challenge, especially in the beginning.
Mm.
I didn't try to, as I mentioned before, I didn't try to get published until oh my goodness, my kids were in school, and I suddenly realized I've been reading books to my kids. I've been reading them picture books. I've been reading them chapter books. I started reading them novels. I started feeling that I want to write the books that are being held and read by little, 9-year-old hands, and the faces of my kids being so excited, and the way that the books meant so much to them. I wanted to be part of that.
Mm. And it really, I'm really glad that you're sharing that your experience turned out that way, because we can easily, when we recognize our gifts, we can easily see that our gifts are like this, and we can easily have them go like this, where the light goes out, so to speak. And we'll put a pin in that and circle back on that thread momentarily. Before we dive into the pages of Just One Little Light, this is something that some people could perceive as heavy. You know, whenever we talk about the darkness, it is heavy. But could you share us, now that you mentioned, share your origin story?
Yeah.
And there's the origin story of Just One Little Light. And obviously, for those who have been paying attention to planet Earth and just the world in general, these past, even leading into the pandemic, these past 5 years, it seems like 50 lifetimes in 5 years. Like, we've gone through a lot, everything ranging from COVID and the pandemic to remote distance learning and kids not being able to spend time with their friends and teachers and grandparents. And then you factor in Black Lives Matter and all the things that are happening with, things related to climate change. Mother Nature has been pissed in many respects. So it's kind of like an external representation of these bottled up emotions that we've had. Could you share with us the origin story of Just One Little Light, when you knew that this particular story needed to come out, and your why for writing it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, so much of what you just said. And I believe I wrote this around 2016, maybe. I was feeling so overwhelmed with a lot of things, like over those years of building up to COVID, and then right around COVID and afterwards, I felt like there was a building up of not only the things we were seeing around the world, but also the angry voices and the hate and the people not listening to other people, and the need for instead of discourse or trying to have empathy and understand people, it just felt as if people wanted to see who could be the angriest, the loudest, in the meanest way. And I began to have this sort of helplessness about me. And I kept thinking, if I feel this way as a grown-up, feel helpless walking around the world, what is that experience like for a kid? And I remember there were several versions of this book. The rough draft was very, very different. And it slowly morphed into the sort of minimal, simple. I wanted to use as few words as possible that felt as impactful as possible. And I wanted the words that I use, I wanted to change the order of them so that the meaning of the sentences could change simply by using the same words. And maybe, I don't know if that was, now when I talk about it, I think it's because that's the way we can look at the world. By simply switching a few things, we can shift worldview. We can shift the way we see things. We can shift the way we handle things. And it felt right to write it that way. But honestly, John, going through the time where I suddenly felt a darkness and I felt sad in the world and a little helpless, I also had the feeling I was talking about before, which was, when I'm so sad, does anybody want to read anything that I'm writing? That was something that it took me a little while to really get this book written and then put it out in front of people, and have somebody say that they want to, and believe that somebody might want to publish it.
Well, and I give you credit for believing in yourself, because you obviously, when you were penning this story, this was pre-pandemic. This is before a lot of the really like the deepest of the dark that we experienced in our own ways actually happened. The fact that it's out there now, what does that mean to you? I mean, knowing the fact that we're still, I mean, we're very much now on the other side of the pandemic, but still, whenever you experience any form of trauma, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
It could take some time, just more than a couple days, couple months, couple years. What does it mean to you on both a personal and professional level to know that this book is out there in this world and that it's actually making a tangible difference?
Thanks, John. I think that for me, something that I like referring to is, do you remember the light brights, that toy? It's the light screen with all the little holes, and you put a black piece of construction paper over it, and you have these little teeny plastic beads, and they're this big, they're so small, and you poke them through, and a teeny beam of light comes out. And I think of putting this book out there makes me think of the light bright. It's one, and it's really the theme of the book. It's that one little dot of light peeking through. And yeah, even that small dot makes a difference, because then maybe somebody else has another little dot. We're all just putting we're doing our best, right? And maybe if your best is just that one little dot of light, amazing. You don't have to, and this is another big theme of the book, you don't have to be everything and do everything and have the entire answer that solves everything, because you can't. Who can do that? Who can be the all end all answer for all darkness in the world? No, it's just, but if you can offer just one little bit of light into the world, that's enough to begin.
Very true.
This is where the idea from the book came from, really.
A few things specifically come to mind. Is one, being a child of the 80s, I absolutely remember and love light. In fact, I give as gifts regularly. They have little mini light brights that, like, you go to Target, they're like $10, and like they're the little,
to get one.
they're the smaller versions of the light bright. They're like pocket little light, which are amazing. And the fact that also we're interconnected beings as well too. So if you notice the fact, right, and you can, like, my light, and then there's your light, and then there's the light of the person next door, it all makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
We are fully enjoying our trolley stop here. That is episode number 198 with award-winning children's author Kat Yeh. We are about ready to crack the cover and dive into the pages of Just One Light, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Balzer Bray and HarperKids. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com, if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, of course, and leave a 5-star review after purchasing and enjoying Just One Little Light. That's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Kat, to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. You can also make that polite and kind recommendation to your favorite local library, children's independent bookstore, because they truly are the pillars of our community as well. For all educators out there who would like to be able to schedule your author school visit with Kat during the 2024 school year, you're welcome to do so, as we've included our website in the description below as well too. One of the favorite times here on a Children's Book Spotlight Series episode is when we crack the cover. You got to love the alliteration. And when we dive into the pages of the book that it is that we're sharing, one of the things as well is that we don't like to give away the whole kit and caboodle. I always like saying those words because I feel like that's like an old school century word, like the phrase kit and caboodle, right? But for those who are, again, learning about this book for the first time, and they're intrigued, and they know it's about connecting to their light, the story itself, it's a short story, but it's very powerful. There's a lot of light, there's a lot of energy, but not necessarily as many words. So without giving away the whole kit and caboodle, can you share with us what children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books, those of us who really, I mean, we all have our inner light, can benefit from? What are some of the specific themes and messages and the takeaways that you hope that people enjoy after reading?
I think the most important thing is that you mentioned earlier that sometimes people become uncomfortable with the idea of darkness or things that are troublesome or difficulties. But the truth is that, especially, well, for everyone, but for kids, darkness can mean, for humans, darkness can mean so many different things. It could be something terrible and serious, like losing a loved one. It could be a tough day. It could be I lost a toy that I love. It could be I just am in a bad mood. There are so what I love about talking about the elements of light and dark is that whoever picks up a book and reads about light and darkness, because of the way that I wrote it, I didn't really make it about a specific darkness. It really is for the child or the parent or the teacher or whoever is reading it to take whatever they need it to be and use the book in that way. And I should say experience the book in that way. I also want to add that my illustrator, Isabel Arsenault, did such a beautiful job. And there's something about the way that she, little by little, introduced these beautiful hits of color, that there's something that, as I found myself looking at her illustrations for the first time, it really felt as if what she added to my words pulled me from a dark place and introduced all these incredible possibilities. And so the journey of experiencing the book, and for me as the writer, experiencing it illustrated, felt like a journey from darkness to light, following a path of light and just finding yourself in a place of hope. And I do really, that is my hope, is that whatever your darkness is, by sharing this story with someone, maybe holding someone onto your lap and reading it and talking about whatever you need to talk about, maybe you can see that no matter how small that hope is or that little bit of light that you have, it's enough. It's something I think about a lot, having compassion for yourself. There's so much pressure, especially to kids. Achieve this, be the best at that, push, go. You have to do this to get into that. And any small, I like to think of small wins. If you have just the smallest win, amazing. And I hope that everybody can feel that just one little light. And I think that's why I put the just in there, because it wasn't one little light, it's just one. Have compassion. You don't need to be everything to everyone.
Ooh, and that's a message that rings true, because us as sensitive souls, empathic beings, we want to, sometimes we want to feel like we want to save the world, and we want to, again, be everything to everyone. And this is why during the program, we always love to be able to provide useful and supportive tips and tools and strategies for parents, caregivers, grandparents, educators who are watching the Children's Book Spotlight, so they can immediately extract those and implement them into their lives and the lives of their children, the lives of their students. There are, and this is, I think, even suited for us as adults as well, too. There's times in our life, oftentimes, where we know that we have our light, but we're struggling to allow it to shine, whether it be with outside external influences, family, friends, trying to fit in, be in a different kind of box, be someone other than who you are. What are some of the ways that we can do our part as parents and caregivers and custodians of our little ones? How can we help and empower our children to be able to nurture and foster and strengthen their inner light so that their light is felt more in the world?
Yeah, I love that. I love that question. I think that, so as grown-ups, as adults and parents, we also have that pressure. And as teachers, we also feel that pressure. Are we doing a good job? Are we doing everything we can? Are we giving our kids every possible advantage they could possibly have so they can go and be the best they can be? And that's a lot of pressure on us too. So the first thing I would say to any grown-up or teachers, have compassion for yourself. You're
Mhm.
doing great just by wanting to do this. And the next thing I would say is with kids, as best you can, remember that in psychology circles, they talk a lot about the ways that people react or respond have everything to do with themselves rather than to do with what's happening out there,
Correct.
right? It's how we handle it and how we respond. As best you can, try to let go of any immediate need to respond, especially with judgment. If something's happening with a kid and maybe they're being ridiculously goofy and silly in a place that's not appropriate, you have that, oh, no, we don't do that. That's not what we do here. That's not right. We have this idea about rules. Maybe just take a breath. I think is always the first thing. Take a breath, pause for a minute, and withhold judgment, and maybe just look at what's happening and say, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Let them tell you. Let them explain it. Let them say, oh, I thought up a silly dance and I needed to be silly. And right now, in the middle of the library or wherever they weren't supposed to be dancing and being loud. And then respond to that and take that step by step. I think humans in general, we're more comfortable with rules, right? We want labels, we want rules, we want to know the way everything is so that we can move through the world and feel as if we're safe. But the truth is, when we keep pushing rules on kids nonstop, rather than just sort of listening to what they're going through and understand, more than anything, they just want to be seen and heard and valued. That's what they want. They want to be seen, heard, and valued. So hear them, see what they're doing. Ask them why. Tell them what you like about it.
Mm.
And then after that, you can talk about other stuff like, oh, usually this place is kind of quiet and people like it to be quiet here because they're studying, and then go into other things. But I think that as adults, we get very caught up in, we must get the rules down and we must keep them in this little box so that they can continue to go to the next box and the next one and end up in the success box or whatever. I think that we just have to, it starts with taking a breath. It'll be okay.
And kids especially, they obviously need to be reminded of that. That's why I feel in many respects you're carrying the torch in your own way. You're carrying the torch of Mr. Rogers, yet blazing your own trail. When it comes to reminding kids of their worth and their inherent value and reminding them of their life, because there's kids that are out there that for some kids that their parents don't even feel that their kids have light, and they're kind of going through their own prolonged darkness, so to speak. And this is why, especially again, the crafting of the messaging and the story and the words, like one of my favorite passages, there's a little boy and he's holding hands with a little girl, and they're looking at flowers that are growing. One little light cannot light the whole sky, but it is enough to begin. And sometimes, again, we just need to hear that, like take that one breath, that one step, whatever that next step may be. The one other thread, and this is towards the end of the story, this is one of my favorite illustrated passages. And again, Isabel did an incredible job with the illustrations.
Yeah.
But there's the spread at the very end. For one little light, just one little light is enough to light the way and reveal how far that you've come. We live in this society where we always want to press the fast forward button. We want to be, what's going to be happening 1 year from now. I mean, if you're a businessman, what's your 5-year plan, right? There's well-natured parents that can get sucked into, their little one being born today and where the kid's going to go to college, right? And there's times where we can also be very hard on ourselves, as I mentioned beforehand, and you get lost in the moment. Maybe you made a mistake with something, and it's just so. Could you speak to the thread of being very intentional and carving out that space every day, and even if it's just a few minutes, heck, a few seconds, just to reflect on how far that you've come in life? Why do you feel that that's important maybe now more than ever before?
Yeah, I think that part of that is I spoke about having compassion for yourself and celebrating those little wins. I think that it's absolutely essential to you talked about kind of people fast forwarding and wanting to zoom ahead and jump ahead and say, oh, where are you going to go to college, or where am I going to be 5 years from now? It's so essential to be in the moment, in the moment with your kid. Look at your kid in the eye and think about all the incredible things that are going on this very, very second, because we can't control what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen in the next year or ever. But being in that moment. And then I think that looking back and just letting yourself be proud and say, I did that. Because once you do that, once you say, I did that, you put that in your pocket and you take it with you. And the next time something hard comes up, you pull that out of your pocket and you said, wait a minute, I did that. I think I can do this. So I think that looking back at where you were before and not judging it, not having shame or thinking, oh, I was such a loser then, or oh, I was weak or anything else, just thinking, look how strong I became. And then when the next challenge comes up, thinking, if I was able to go from there to here, I bet I could go from here to the next stop. And just owning and loving yourself enough. And again, unapologetically loving yourself and being proud of yourself, saying, I did that. I can do this, or at least I'm going to do my best. Just that.
Based on what it is that you had shared, one of the things that I have here in my office is I have a victory bucket.
I love that.
I actually went to, this was, I forget how long ago it's been, but I went to Home Depot and I got an orange bucket. Like I was, normally when you get a bucket, it's white or it's gray.
Right, now I know exactly the bucket you're talking about.
The orange Home Depot something bucket that has a little bit of pizzazz here. And it's just like, I need to be even more conscious of placing, even if it's just that one victory, because when you take the time again to be more intentional in the process, you can really create a life with more light and with more love. We're beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here on episode number 198 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, award-winning children's author Kat Yeh. We are thoroughly enjoying her brand new children's book, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Balzer Bray, HarperKids, Just One Light. It is now available. You can head on over to Amazon.com if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, and you can leave a 5-star review after purchasing and enjoying just one little light. One of the many ways, again, you can pledge your support for Kat to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books is to leave that 5-star review. Also, you can make that kind recommendation to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or favorite independent bookstore, or your favorite big box stores. Yes, you got to support the big box stores. Just support the independent stores just a wee bit more than the box stores in the process as well, too. And again, for all educators that are out there, we've included Kat's official website below so that you can connect with her for scheduling author school visits for the 2024 school year. I do feel I've tended to be the ultimate optimist for a long period of time. And even when there was the collective dark and we all moved through our individual darks, I have been the one to say, channeling my inner Clarice from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the beloved Christmas special. And you have Clarice that sings, there's always tomorrow for dreams to come true, which again, it sounds kind of cheesy, but it really is true in many respects.
I love the cheese.
Yes. What is your hope that you're realistically putting out? I mean, obviously, again, you've done your part, you've put this book out there, and it really is genuinely making a difference. What is your hope, as we're now in the new year, we're in the second month of the new year, and, it seems that time is moving a little bit faster than it did before. But what is your hope? Not even just when people enjoy the story, but when it comes to this message, this universal message of putting more light into the world and how it all begins with remembering our own inner light. What is your hope for children, for parents, for families, really for the world overall when it comes to this?
Yeah, to continue and not give up, and to not feel, to never worry that any contribution is too small, because oftentimes people feel maybe exhausted these days and they just don't have anything to give. And maybe what you have to give that day is just a kindness to somebody else. And that's your light for the day. And that's great. And it doesn't have to be, as I said in the book, it doesn't have to light up the whole sky. It doesn't have to be the answer to everything. Do just your small part. Continue to do it and shine your light in any way you can. Whenever you can, shine it on others so they can also share in that light. And all we can do is our best. All we can do is our best. That's all.
Well, going back to a gentleman's name that we've mentioned a few times here, we, of course, bring back in the spirit of our favorite friend and neighbor, Mr. Rogers. And he reminded us regularly in different ways, whether it be through his time on the neighborhood, whether when he was out in public and he spoke at college commencement speeches, talks across the country. He most notably did this when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmy shortly before he passed from stomach cancer. He always kept the time, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute, and he encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being.
No.
That was his way of helping us to remember those beautiful hearts and those kind souls who helped us to remember our light and the light that we are in the world, and to those who helped us to remember to not extinguish our light. Who are some of the people that you would like to publicly recognize here in episode number 198 of the Children's Book Spotlight series that help love you? Kat Yay.
Well, I mean, immediately I think of my family. And especially at a time like right now, my son moved to LA, but he's visiting. And he's leaving tomorrow. And he was here for a couple weeks and it was great. And there was part of me that was a little sad, but then I realized I'm so happy he's doing so well. And I'll see him next time I go out there and next time he comes here. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And my daughter who lives in New York now, and my husband. And I feel so grateful and so lucky that I have a loving family that I talk to every day. And my mother is in California and I talk to her every day. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me especially, this has been such a big part of getting through the dark time, is just that. And the book I dedicated to my husband, just the consistency of having his light in my life. I just can never, ever be grateful enough for that.
And I believe Mr. Rogers had shared very poignantly that whether those people are near or far, whether they are still with us or watching down from heaven, they are smiling knowing the impact that they made on your life and the love that you're sharing and the kindness that you're giving to yourself and to others in the process. And totally, it's just an amazing being, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And still is, because his spirit still lives on through many of us as well. We're also huge Disney buffs here at the Children's Book Spotlight. Yeah. And that reminds us that we have the ability to bring to form and shape our dreams, our desires, our goals, our ambitions. We can fulfill our own wishes, and we have the ability to help those that we love, we care about, those that we're called to serve, to help them achieve what it is that they want to be able to achieve in life. You have freely given to children, parents, families, educators, all children's book lovers around the world. So this is your time to receive, Kat. So we have a little segment that we like to call 3 Wishes. We have a trusted genie lamp here. It's tried and true. It goes with us wherever we go. I think the only automatic disqualifiers, according to the genie of the lamp, and of course, we remember the beloved Robin Williams, who voiced the genie of the lamp, the Disney animated classic Aladdin from 1992. I believe the only automatic disqualifiers were you can't make someone fall in love with you, and you can't ask for more wishes. That is pretty much fair game. So,
right.
What would your 3 wishes be?
Oh, my 3 wishes would be 1, I would hope that every being on this planet would feel seen, heard, valued, just right there, and just be able to experience that. The next would be, I would hope for a growing empathy in the world. And the last one would be, I would hope for safety for the planet to heal and be safe and to thrive. Off the top of my head, I'm sure there's others.
Yes. No, but those are beautiful wishes. And I believe that Mr. Rogers shared that if those wishes come from your heart, that they have a greater chance of coming true and coming to fruition, which is totally true. Raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 198 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We see hands from Kat, hands from myself, we see hands from the little ones on screen. And that means we like to say mission accomplished, job well done. Now, also, if you remember back in the day, the 80s, 90s, the beloved movie critic duo, Siskel and Ebert, when they loved a movie, they gave it 2 thumbs up. Well, one of the most beloved endorsements for children's authors is when little Forrest over here gives 2 up to give 2 thumbs up for a children's book that we're sharing on the Children's Book Spotlight series, and little Forrest absolutely loves Just One Little Light. So he is giving 2 paws up in the process. Aren't you just, well, you're one of my little lights, but you are a big, big, big light in a small doggy body, needless to say. Again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com. If that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can purchase and enjoy your copy of Just One Little Light. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. Again, one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Kat, to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books, is to leave that 5-star review as well. Also, again, Just One Little Light, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Balzer Bray and HarperKids. For all educators out there, you can stay connected as well with Kat to be able to not only stay connected with her, but also facilitate your own author school visit for Kat during the 2024 school year. We've included her website below. And for all non-educators, all children's book lovers, parents and grandparents, you can stay connected with Kat on social media. We've included her social media platforms below in the description below as well too. But fear not, there are many more magical trolley stops to come, even though when we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. But we are almost at our 200th trolley stop. The countdown is almost complete. We encourage all of you, because this is not only just a banner month, and we're going to be talking more about that momentarily here at PR from the Heart, but it really is a banner year here. And it all starts off, of course, with this very program, the Children's Book Spotlight series, which we've been blessed and fortunate to be able to do for the past 5 years, and approaching 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Without you, there would be no us. If you are a children's author or a middle grade author, and you would love to share your inspiring story in the release of your brand new children's and middle grade book on a forthcoming edition of the Children's Book Spotlight series, you can connect with us via our official website at prfromtheheart.com, or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen: Facebook, Instagram. We like to refer to Twitter as the artist, or we like to refer to X as the artist formerly known as Twitter. I still can't call it X for the life of me. So if you remember back when Prince, right, the late musician, called himself the artist formerly known as Prince, so that's the artist formerly known as Twitter, all at PR from the Heart. We are super excited because we are just days away from the celebration of the 3-year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. Of course, we are also blessed and fortunate to have our dear friend and fellow neighbor. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. David Newell joins us each and every month, and we deliver, as a little tip of the cap to his character, we deliver heartfelt reviews from the newest children's books, from the shining stars in the world of children's literature, both published and self-published authors. And we are super excited to release the 3-year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. So if you are a children's author and would love for David and I to deliver a heartfelt review of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, you know where to connect with us via our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or any of our social media platforms as well. And we are now just a few months away from approaching our 10th anniversary of being of service to children's authors, serving some of the top authors in the world of children's literature, authors and illustrators from John Parra and Catherine Roy to those authors who are just beginning their journey. If you are interested and would like to be able to share your story and shine your light even more for the world to see, and have that be in the form of a book media tour or a national book media tour, you can connect with us via our official website, prfromtheheart.com, and schedule your courtesy connection call. Let us see how we can be of service to you. So again, 2024, it's already a banner year. It's going to be even more of a banner year, and we're looking forward to helping and supporting and being of service and support to many of all of the shining stars in the world of children's literature. One final time, we encourage all of you, if you already haven't had the chance to do so, to head on over to your favorite local independent children's bookstore, your favorite local library, to be able to enjoy your copy of Just One Little Light, or head on over to Amazon.com. Again, if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. This kind of reminds me, like back in the day when we used to watch movies and you get like the dancing popcorn like before the movie starts. Yeah. I'm hungry. If we haven't yet reminded you that this is a super amazing empowered read, I think that you're kind of getting with the program. Again, you can leave that 5-star review for Just One Little Light, one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Kat, to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. If the messages that we have been sharing, this trolley stop has been, it's been so amazing. I'm trying to even find more words to be able to describe how beautiful that it's been. If this has inspired you, if it's helped you, if it's reminded you that you indeed have light, and even if you are moving through the darkest time of your life, that your light is still there and your light can shine, that your light is more needed more than ever before. If you feel that this message needs to be shared with someone in need, someone who is moving through a challenging time, or if they're moving through the proverbial dark storm, if you need to remind them of their inner light, we encourage you, if you haven't had the chance to do so, to subscribe to Pierre from the Heart's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that you have now been enjoying. That is episode number 198 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight series, for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators like Kat, who again are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books, for your continued support of local libraries and children's and independent bookstores, truly the pillars of our community. Above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. One more time, we still feel his spirit. He's very much with us. We remember, again, Mr. Rogers. And it's interesting because his dear writer friend, Tom Junod, in the Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, he said, in many respects, in his own private numerology, Fred really connected with the numbers 143. Right? You always saw that during The Neighborhood. And somehow the man weighed 143 pounds during his entire natural life. I tend to feel that maybe Fred had a connection with Ponce de Leon and found the fountain of youth. But interestingly enough, in case you didn't know, there's 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. As little Forrest and his cat were kind enough to spend some quality time with us here in our neighborhood here this week, as a little tip of the cap to our favorite neighbor, Mr. Rogers, we share our favorite 3 numbers of 243. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. That is our reminder to you of your inherent worth, your inherent value, and that we see the light in you, that you are loved, that you are special, that you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that we like you, that we love you just the way that you are. So again, for Little Forrest, for Kat Yay, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood. We hope that you enjoy your Valentine's Day and the midpoint of February and beyond, and we look forward to seeing you for many more magical trolley stops to come, including episode number 200, our 200th trolley stop on the Children's Book Spotlight series, which is just right around the corner. Thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.